Hi everyone, my name is Kartik and my channel is about mental models. In this video I'm going to be talking about double entry accounting. All financial transactions can be explained in terms of double entry accounting. Although the world of accounting and finance is complex and at times can be confusing, double entry accounting is very formulaic and straightforward. What I'm not saying though is that it is easy, because it does take some getting used to. For one, there are at least 2 entries for each transaction made up of debits and credits. Let's take an example. Let's say you make a purchase of £180. What you see is money moving from you to the person or business that you are making the purchase from. But from an accounting perspective, what is happening is that an expense account, in this case purchase, is increasing, and an asset account, in this case cash, is decreasing. Now let's look at another example. Let's say I get a loan of £50,000. What I see is money coming to me that I can use. But from an accounting perspective, again, there are 2 effects happening. What is happening is that the liability account, or the loan, the liability is increasing, and because I'm getting money, the asset account, which is cash, is also increasing. So those are the 2 effects. Both are increasing. Now, this can be shown in terms of debits and credits. So you've got debit expense of 180 and credit asset of 180. So this would be purchase and cash. And here you would have debit your asset of 50,000 and credit your liability of 50,000. Now, in both of these examples, I have 1 debit and 1 credit. But let's say, in this example, I need to account for VAT. And so then again, in reality, the transaction doesn't look any different. The money is moving from me to the business or person who I'm buying from. But from an accounting perspective, I need to account for the VAT. And on £180, the VAT would be £30. So I need to account for it in the following way. So I've got debit of an expense, then I've got the VAT, and I've got the credit of the asset. So I'm paying £180, so that's staying the same. My VAT is 30, and so the purchase is 150. And so here, what I'm doing with the VAT is that it actually is a debit, because the VAT on a purchase is actually an asset. It's an asset account, so it's actually increasing the asset. So this is what happens. And as you can see here, I've got 2 debits and 1 credit. So the number of debits and credits are not equal, but the amounts, the total value for the debit and the total values for the credits are equal. And this is what double entry accounting is in a nutshell. For each transaction, there are at least two effects. When I'm purchasing, all I can see is just a transaction, the purchase transaction. But in terms of double entry accounting, there are at least two effects. These are recorded as debits and credits, which in total equal each other. And finally, there is the mnemonic DEAD CLIC, which tells us what and when to debit and credit. DEAD CLIC shows us how to record an increase to an account, and it stands for, on the dead side, debit, expenses, assets, drawings, and on the click side, credits, liabilities, income, and capital. And it's sort of the first letter of each that makes the mnemonic DEAD CLIC. So taking this into consideration with my examples, when I'm increasing, so here, when I'm increasing my expense, what I'm doing, looking at DEAD CLIC, my expense is increasing, and this shows how to account for an increase. I'm looking at the expenses. The expenses are in the debits, under the debit heading. So in order to record an increase in an expense, I need to debit the expense. And that's why I've done debit expense here, because my expense is increasing and it's in this column here. If I increase my liability, this example here, how do I record for that? Well, liabilities are under credits, so I need to credit the liability. And that's why I've credited my liability, because it's increasing. When I decrease my asset, so when I'm making here a payment for a purchase, you can see that the assets are in the debits column. So that's how you increase an asset. So if it's decreasing, if it's reducing the asset, then it must be the opposite. So it must be crediting the asset. And just to round it off, here my asset is increasing, and this table is showing how to increase assets. Well, assets are under debit, so I need to debit my asset. So this always shows how to increase a particular account, what the treatment, the accounting treatment is to increase a particular account, whether I debit it or whether I credit it to show an increase. And if it was a decrease, it's just the reverse. And that's what I've shown here in my examples. So what are the advantages of double entry accounting? It all seems a little bit of a faff. As I said, it is very formulaic and straightforward, but it does take a bit of time to get used to. So why are we doing this? What's the benefit of doing all of this? Well, firstly, it provides an organization with a complete understanding of its financial profile by noting how a transaction affects both credit and debit accounts. These things here. Secondly, it makes spotting mistakes easier because debits and credits need to match. The values, the amounts, need to match. And so if the debits and credits don't add up, if they don't match, then something is wrong. And lastly, it makes preparing financial statements easier as it takes into consideration that each transaction has more than one effect. In reality, we only see one transaction, but behind that, the substance behind that is that there are a number of things happening, and double entry accounting takes that into account. And that's all there is for this mental model. It's all about practicing and understanding the situation and then trying to account for it. But that's really it for this mental model. As I said, it's very formulaic and quite straightforward. It just takes a little bit of time to get used to. I hope you liked this video. If you did, then please like, share and subscribe to my channel. And if you liked this video, then check out these two videos flashing on screen now. I'm sure you'll like them as well. And I will see you in the next video with another mental model. Thank you for watching. Bye bye.